Evil! Hello, our fellow voiders. We are cruising into an interesting one. My name is Nagy. Thank you for joining us on this spirit journey. With me is my Irish northern lampfish. How we doing there, bud?
We're doing awesome today, man. We have a really fun topic to talk about in that we are going to give you our top 3 favorite villains each. So you're going to get 6 villains today, and we're going to tell you why they're our absolute favorite in these storylines. And I think we've covered a wide breadth of depth of universes and different storylines, and hopefully one of these people you can relate with and get behind.
I mean, I think that's the thing is a lot of like you can see the motivations for some, and then we're going to talk about some that didn't make the list and why, because that is also important to me of what
Yeah.
made it favorite, not just best or evilest.
But we are going to talk highly of very piss poor character flaws that are happening through. So buckle
Yes.
up, ladies and gentlemen, for the ride that we got going on today.
Nice. So I think to start off just a little bit, there's a general spectrum we can kind of get into, and this does kind of relate to the D&D aspect of lawful, neutral, evil,
Just general character building.
unlawful.
It's the
Yeah,
chaotic, neutral, and lawful. So what's the why behind the
correct.
character? Are they doing it just for shits and giggles, or are they doing it because there's a greater good that they have to fight for?
Correct. And there's some of the good ones that I think everyone can relate to on each kind of different spectrum of what it would be. I think the biggest one that always pops into my head is Deadpool being chaotic. Would you say chaotic good? That's where I would just throw him easily.
Deadpool's chaotic good. Because at the end of the
And
day, or you know what? I would actually declare Deadpool as like true chaotic neutral. Because like
yeah,
Deadpool's really out there just for Deadpool. At the end of the day, he
right.
could
He's
care less
doing
what
it
side
for
you're
him.
on, but he
Right.
knows morally what the right thing to do is, and he will do that. But when he has no dog in the fight, he could care less what happens.
Right. Great example is, he shoots the pedophile in the second Deadpool, or not a pedophile, but the abuser, and
Mhm.
um, Big Metal Dude freaks out. He's like, "Yeah, but that's what needed to be done. I don't really care about the repercussions. That's what needed to be done right there." And
Yep.
but also like, all right, if this kid's gonna kill someone, puts on the collar, it's gonna be me. So it's like that's a good aspect, but he's also just doing the dumb thing. And I think not enough people appreciate the chaos aspect of it because it's
Mhm.
like it truly is chaos. But that's kind of just a brief of that one. And then what would you put for like good? Who's someone who's just straight neutral good?
A neutral good character would be um Uncle Iroh from Avatar. He has
Yeah,
he has no drive in why things are good, as in it's just the morality of doing it. As in, this is what it takes to be a good human being. It's not because this is the greater good of the country, this is the greater good of whoever. This is just, as humans, how we should treat each other. And that's how Uncle
the
Iroh
balance.
sees the world.
Right.
Yep. There's no
And then
like a out there, he's not joking around to have fun or just a good time. He's not the guy doing that, giving finger guns. He's like, look, this is all we need to do to exist. All right, this is how I be nice to you. This is how you be nice to me. This is how I help you be a better person. This is how you help me be a better person. Let's just do it together. You want some tea? Like
dude.
that.
And then like moving into like lawful, these are the guys that follow the rules down to the T. No,
Mm-hmm.
you can't cross the street right there because there's no crosswalk. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is a true lawful. Like these are the rules of society. They were put in place for us to follow. We don't question them. We just do them.
Mm-hmm.
So and then there's the whole spectrum, all of those. So we're gonna bounce those around. just kind of, but that's the broad spectrum of kind of chaos, neutral, and then lawful of kind of what is going on with all these villains, obviously leaning towards more of the chaos and evil side for these.
Yeah. So let's start, I'd say then, with just our lawful evil characters then. So the people that have a real drive in why they're doing things.
Okay.
So, you got your D20 with you?
I do.
It's Evil Day, so I'm gonna go with my red D20.
Nice.
All right. I got a 6.
I got a 19.
All right, you want to go first, or me go first?
Yeah. Nah, you go ahead. Dealer's choice.
All right.
Doesn't make sense. You go first. I'm dealing, and I'm choosing you.
All right, then we'll roll again on the next one. So I chose, this is from the anime universe of a show called Death Note, and his name is Light Yagami, also known as Kira. So, for all our people out there that are not anime fans, what Light Yagami is Light Yagami is the son of a cop, genuinely a genius, like just in every mathematical way, and can understand the universe and problem solving and how to treat people. But son of a cop, so raised with the morality of a cop, right? And also athletic as hell. He's breaking all the barriers. Think of just like the guy that won the genetic lottery, right? And everybody loves him. Everybody loves him. One day he gets this book that falls out of the sky, and he can write people's names in it, and they die. It's called the Death Note. And it's because this death god basically kills them, but they can die of specific ways. So the way Light Yagami uses this is to kill people that are in prisons. So this guy committed bad item, right? He stole 4 cars, ran over 3 people, X, Y, and Z. So Light Yagami would be like, all right, he dies of a heart attack on May 11th. So he has a heart attack in his cell and nobody knows what happened. So he is doing the morally good thing that is happening, right? Like, we could argue the lawful thing that's happening. Eye for an eye. He's not just killing randos. It's not like just some guy that got charged with marijuana possession. He's killing actual people that are on death row and doing things. So he's like, we'll speed this up a little bit. Now, with that, basically, he picks up the attention of the FBI, and they start chasing down and trying to figure out why all these people are dying in prison. Light Yagami basically has to out-dodge all the cops, and that's where the show gets really interesting and how things happen. But over time creates this god complex because he's almost untouchable, because how do you trace that down to anything? And that's one of the fun parts of the show. But you can see where he sees himself at that before he even kind of gets there, because he has all these things that line up for it, right? So he's the son of a cop, understands morality, is extremely smart, athletic, at the top ends of everything. So why shouldn't he be the ideal creation, right? Like, you can see where it all creates out of it. And he's one of your favorite villains throughout the show. And basically how he grows and chooses to do different things. But the biggest morality question that you run into with Light Yagami is death for the greater good when you don't have to be part of the outcome.
Okay.
Think of Thanos, right? Like, it's easy to sit in a seat and snap your fingers and say half the people have to die when you know you're going to make it to the other side.
Do you think he knew it? You think that was a subconscious drive? Like, could Thanos have been a part of the equation?
Oh, I have no idea. I'm not enough of a nerd to understand that. Well, Marvel, clearly. I'm earning my card.
Right.
But not enough of a Marvel.
But yeah, no, like you said. So like a judge, jury, and executioner, and he's kind of put himself on this pedestal to implement his form of justice on these other people.
Yep. And at the same time doesn't have to be part of the outcome, right? Because somebody who is a lawful good character would be like, all right, half the people have to die. I'm stepping in so that one less person doesn't have to, right? One more person can stay in my space. The sacrifice is for the greater good, but he's like, no, half of them just go. So that's the lawful good versus evil, and that is why I love Light Yagami. And if you haven't seen Death Note, it is a great show. It's 54 episodes. For all you Friends nerds, it's about 2 seasons of Friends to watch because it's anime and it's short. All right.
Okay.
So Nagy, who's your lawful evil character?
Well, no, time out. There's another aspect of this we need to go into. Is there a downfall for this character or not?
Yes.
I think that's important. Like, do they win? Do they lose? Are what Thanos' thing was kind of like, oh, he's removed, but then kind of gets.
So he ultimately loses in the end due to his ego, right? The hubris is what gets him because he believes he's untouchable, and that's what gets him sloppy. But until that, he is perfect. He is perfect to an absolute T. And one of the great reasons that we love this show and we love Light Yagami is because he out-dodges everybody. He's one step ahead of the cops all the time. And he's even baiting and setting traps for them to fall into to figure out who else is kind of part of the problem and how to prove he's not part of the problem. There's so many things about that. And there's one simple mistake that is his ultimate downfall where the cops find... ultimately, the predecessor of the guy that he killed was following him and finds the one clue from... That's where it gets really anime, and I almost don't want to get into it because it's hard to explain. Like, these guys came from the same orphanage that was making these super cops and detectives and problem solving from when they were children, and you're like, this isn't real anymore.
Yeah. Right. You had to do as Machina, kind of just like, oh, this was solved because of the entire history from the very beginning. All right, too much there. Okay.
Great storytelling, world-class storytelling, but I'm not going to waste an hour of this podcast trying to explain that to you guys.
Okay. Last note, it is an anime. They did try and do, I think, a live action one. Worth it? Seen it? No idea.
Okay. If you want, here's how I'll explain it. They did a solid adaptation. It is only an hour and a half of this 12-hour story. So,
okay. Yeah, all right.
If you want the short version, go see it. It's good. It's worth it. It's on Netflix. It's solid. It's totally worth it. They do the characters justice for what it is. But if you want to see it get in super nerd level depths, go watch the anime.
Yes. Okay. Sweet.
Yep. All right. So who's your lawful evil character then?
So for mine, I picked Mr. Adrian Alexander Veidt from The Watchmen, or Watchmen, also known as Ozymandias. So he, very similar. All villains, you need a good villain. They all have to be smart. So I don't think that really needs to be said that anyone on this list is not going to be dumb. Any dumb villains, not really there. So again, he was hyper intelligent from a young age.
So The Watchmen was comic book and movie, right? Or graphic novel and movie. Okay.
Yeah, they have a whole series. I've only delved into the movie and then kind of just looked up him a little bit because what he did, I thought was very good. It was a very good evil. He played it very well, the whole backstory of it. So, again, him growing up, hyper intelligent, he knew he was so smart that he actually downplayed his intelligence and only achieved average grades the whole time. Then Watchmen, for anyone who hasn't seen it, it's kind of an alternative history where superheroes are kind of born around the time of World War II and Vietnam and the Cold War, alternative history, things like that. So he uses his intelligence, and right when superheroes are at their peak, he's doing great. Super athlete as well, did Olympic things. His intelligence and athleticism made him a very good fighter, stuff like that. Then when superheroes were starting to fall out of public appeal, he revealed his secret identity. And then his whole marketing thing was he donated his fortune from his parents, rebuilt everything, became one of the richest, smartest people on the planet. Also, everybody knew he was a superhero, and he used his influence to try and make things better.
So it's very Tony Stark-esque.
Yeah, kinda. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Similar aspect of, he didn't really switch sides, being like, "Oh, I was super evil, now I'm good." He was kind of going through the whole time of, we're good, we're trying to do the right thing, but he kind of took on that evil persona of politicians, humanity can't really guide themselves. I need to help. I'm such a good person. I'm so smart. I need to help guide humanity.
Yeah. So he
So
privatized, basically, we'll call it violence for lack of a better term, and said, I'm going to take over things. But instead of going the good route like Iron Man, he went this other route.
to an extent, yeah. It's like
Okay.
he knew he wasn't going to be in charge, but he influenced society. So anyway, if you watch the movie Watchmen, it's at the Cold War, nukes are getting, everybody's at each other's throats, everybody's got their fingers over the buttons kind of thing. And spoiler alert, go watch the movie, it's already X many years old. But he sets off all these explosions, basically nuclear explosions, framing another superhero, saying that like humanity was ready to kill itself, so now I'm going to cause all this destruction and make humanity unite. And the way he does that is, again, by throwing all these bombs in the United States, highly populated areas all over the world, and everybody's ready to retaliate. And they're like, did the US fire that? Did Russia fire that? And they're like, no. Everyone got hit at once from this other superhero. But again, it kind of makes that like, oh, we're not against each other anymore. We have to worry about superheroes and their superpowers kind of thing. So the way he did that was, again, an eviler thing for a greater good. So it's kind of like that lawful evil of, this is the laws that need to be followed, but you're not following rightly, so I'm going to make you guys are going to suffer extreme destruction so that now you're going to fall in line.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
when he blew off the nukes, did he have to be part of that outcome or not? Or
To an
was it kind
extent,
of like
so-
a holier than thou crusade type of?
thing. So he based his life originally on Alexander the Great of, I'm conquering everything to take in this knowledge. And then he switched over to Ramesses II, who empowered that even more. So it was an Egyptian guy and a big leader and stuff like that. But he was like, by using all of this information, I'm going to make sure we guide humanity in the right course, where I know I'm smarter and better than all the politicians, but I know that they're going to be the ones in charge. I can't destroy everything and take over because people won't follow, a warlord, but they'll follow their own politicians and systems they already have in place. And so one of the reasons he's my favorite is because he had self-sacrifice. Some of the things he did was sacrifice his fellow heroes, killed personal assistants. He was one of those guys that like all these scientists created these bombs and then he killed them all to be like, we're leaving no traces. And then one of my absolute favorite things is when the heroes go to stop him, he's letting everything happen. And he even says like, I'm not giving a monologue. Everything that's happened is already occurring. It's past the point of no return. There's not a button you can hit at the last second. He goes, this is already done.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons he's one of my favorites, because it's like, we're going to destroy everything, click, in 20 minutes. And then there's this big elaborate scene where they stop at the last second. It's like, he's like, oh, you guys want to stop me? Cool, go. Oh my God, you stopped me, but it already happened. Sucks to suck. So that to me is where his genius comes in. And that's why the end game is he possibly was found out. They might have unraveled the clues. But again, it's sort of like that huge conspiracy theory of, oh, we were attacked by superheroes. No, it was actually all this one guy. Like, nah, that's a conspiracy theory. Get that out of here. Like, they wouldn't do that. One of those things where he knew society well enough to blame the bad guy and unite, not like tear the system he put back in.
Watchmen is a phenomenal series that is all about that self-reflection of society, because these characters are created grander than life, but they're very much a reflection of what's happening in the world. Maybe not to that scale, but the scale is what's used to tell the story.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those movies that you could watch like every year to get a reflection, because there's a point where there's a superhero called the Comedian. And he's basically seen as just like a very evil character. He has no problem killing women, children, protesters, whatever. And he even says, they're like, what about the American dream? And he's like, look around. This is it. We got everything we ever wanted. This is the shithole we're in. And that's why Ozymandias was kind of so great, because he's like, yeah, we got everything we wanted, and it was never enough. You know, that ideal perfection in society and utopia, you can't know what perfection is while you're in it, because there's something that can always be better. It's only looking at it later that you go, everything's fine. So yeah, great reflective thing that all these superheroes and things are reflections of everything going on in society. And his ideology is pretty skewed, where he kills hundreds of thousands of innocent people across the entire planet, but it's for a greater good in his eyes. And yes, and then in the end, like, the downfall is kind of hinted, like maybe he'll be found out or not, but that kind of is where it ends, where it's like, you know, he pretty much got away with it.
All right.
Yeah.
Who's next? What alignment do you want to do? You want to do neutral, or you want to do chaotic? Sorry.
Well, let's do even for neutral and odd for chaotic.
Okay.
We're going odd. Who's your chaos?
Ooh. Oh, no, I went first last time. You go first this time.
So chaos, super easy on this one. Best example is obviously the Joker, but I chose Heath Ledger's Joker because, one, everybody knows who it is, and two, it is the scariest idea of a chaotic evil in my mind, where he is doing things for pure chaos reasons. He says it a million times throughout the movie, but you can see that his actions truly are chaos, and it's every example he sets up is gonna have a chaotic outcome no matter what.
And he also, the other thing that makes him chaotic evil is he has no greater good in who wins other than just the sake of chaos. Like, as long as there's madness and the Joker is somewhere a part of it, that's all he cares about. But one of the most gorgeous things about the Joker that makes him such chaotic evil is his whole journey of how deep and dark his sadness is, and why he does all this on the outside purely to entertain himself on the inside, to not think about the darkness, which makes it it's great choice and world-class character building.
Right. And I think there's so many aspects about him that I think are very important. And to me, one of them is the treatment of his henchmen. Like, that pure loyalty they have, I think, is super critical. We're going to go into why some of the other bad guys didn't make the list. And one of the big ones is, you know, if you kill the messenger that gave you why your plan was foiled, you're not really instilling loyalty. Versus when they're taking down the gangsters doing whatever, and they're like, we'll make you rich. And these guys are like, we don't care about what you have. We're following the Joker. Like, that to me is super critical, where he's like, yo, if you're going to be at the right hand of the devil, awesome, you're not going to get burned. And that to me is very important for a true villain, because if you take over the world but you're not leading anything, then why would anyone kind of want that? Why would not everyone want to suppress that or fight back against it?
All ships rise with the tide, baby. All ships rise.
Yeah. It's going to be a tide of blood, but, you know, you're still on the boat, so
they're still rising, baby. If you're on the boat, it's going up.
Right. And I mean, all the different aspects of, you know, he gets everything he wants, but also, like, when he burns the whole pile of money, it's like, it's not about this. It's about using all the things and tools I have to just accomplish this next feat. And where that could have gone would have just been marvelous to see. And it was super unfortunate we couldn't see that play out.
Yeah. And, I mean, I don't think we even need to limit this to Heath Ledger, just the Joker as a character in general. If you span the life of time, there's a great speech. I can't remember exactly which series, but it's a cartoon series where the Joker and the Batman are talking, and he basically asks Batman if he's going to kill him, and Batman's like, no, that's morally wrong. And the Joker's like, I can't kill you because there's no Joker without Batman. And
right, yeah.
It's like a really deep conversation. And then he tells Batman a joke, and then Batman finally laughs at one because they both kind of realize that, like, they truly can't do what they do without each other because they are the true opposites. Because if Batman didn't exist, there would be no good to stop anything, and Joker would just reign evil. And then things would never really kind of settle right if there was nothing for him to push back on. And vice versa, if the Batman didn't push back, or Joker pushed back on, you get it. I'm looking at this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is interesting to see those things. And that's where it's curious of, again, what's the end game and did they win? So let's say the Joker did incapacitate Batman and kept just reigning chaos. Is that all he wants? You know, would the Joker have been happy with what happened in Dark Knight Rises kind of thing, where he's like, yeah, this is great chaos, stuff like that. Then after Gotham blows up, is he like, cool, where's the next place we're going? Like, those are interesting aspects.
That's also part of the argument, is like, there will be no greater good than Batman, and there will be no greater evil than the Joker. So they cannot thrive without each other, because if they don't, one will ultimately take over, no matter what.
Right.
So they have to have each other. They're the quintessential yin and yang argument.
Right.
And when they are self-aware that happens, you're like, ooh, that's heavy.
Yeah.
So we can all agree Joker S-tier character across the board.
Absolutely.
All right. My chaotic evil is going to be Ramsay Bolton from House Bolton in Game of Thrones. So
evil.
I know you read the books, right?
Correct.
So I'll let you kind of detail that portion of him a little bit more, because there is more of him in the books that didn't quite make the shows and his backstory. So Ramsay Bolton is a character in Game of Thrones that comes from a very torturous household. He was the bastard son of basically the heir to Winterfell, but not really, because nobody ever acknowledged it. He ultimately finds out and believes it because he was basically pushed to the side by his father because he was a bastard child and he didn't want anybody to know. So he just kind of raised feral in the streets. If you think of a king, how a king would live, right? He basically pushed his son out into the streets and was raised feral. And then as he was growing up, there were a few different items that he just kind of learned to be torturous and mean to people. Like, one of his favorite things was to take naked women, let them run in the woods, and then he would hunt them down with only female dogs. And if he didn't enjoy the hunt, he would then do items to those women and force himself upon them. After the dogs kind of chewed him up a little bit. It is wild. And then, obviously, started to belittle his first servant named Reek, and then got his second one, which was Theon Greyjoy. And then we go into the whole Game of Thrones storyline. But Ramsay Bolton, son of Roose Bolton, who was not a great guy, and one of the key benefactors in the Red Wedding.
Correct. He was the one who sent the regards from the Lannisters to the Starks.
Yep. Yeah, so Ramsay Bolton, chaotic evil as it gets. And he only cares about Ramsay Bolton getting what he wants and where he needs to be. So, Ramsay Bolton wants to be in charge of Winterfell. He's going to do anything it takes to take over Winterfell and hold on to it, no matter what. And that will be marrying people he needs to. That'll be making slaves of people that he needs to. That'll be just blatantly killing you if he needs to. Or, even better, if he needs to make a statement, he will take somebody's body and hold it up onto a banner as they march in, just as a heads up that, hey, we did the thing, bud, look at me, see? Right? Like, where's my certificate? And
right.
Like, he just won his varsity
he is, again, it's crazy because when you look at all the different banners and houses, it's dire wolves and the krakens and flowers and roses and lions. But yeah, the House Bolton is the flayed man. So it's like, that's one of the things they bring to war is like torture devices, where it's like, do you have your food and tents or whatever? Like, yeah, and then the torture devices are coming up the back. So it is,
fingernail
like
removers?
you said, he was raised, yeah, he was raised in a house of torture, and like, our enemies are lesser, and what they declare to be an enemy, like you said, could be anyone. He married in, so he was gifted Winterfell by Roose Bolton, and that's when he was named no longer a bastard, and he was named a full. He wasn't a Snow anymore. He was now a Bolton. So he did, like you said, he worked his way up.
I forgot about that part. He went under a different name from his father because he basically pushed him out the side. I completely forgot about that part too.
Yeah. So he was raised up as a Snow. He's a bastard child. Did everything he was told, but like you said, it was always for himself. I think there was a little bit more of everything he's doing did reflect in his father's name, but he recognized that, like, if I do this for him, it's gonna return on me. So that's why he was eventually gifted Winterfell, married off, and the second that he got a wife and had a pregnancy, he's like, if it's a boy, I'm done with you. I'll kill you, flay you, feed you to my dogs, so that the next move I make can be more strategic into getting married to someone else to do whatever. Hence, Sansa and things like that. And then, yeah, but Greyjoy, Theon is a perfect example where Theon was captured and he was led on escape attempts. In the series, they showed it. In the books, they go way deeper into the gaslighting and manipulation of him helping Theon escape numerous times, only to be captured and finally revealing. They cut a lot of it out in the show, but he did that numerous times of helping him get out, only to be the one to hunt him down, capture him, and torture him way more, which is why eventually when Theon's sister came to rescue him, he thought it was another plot by Ramses to no, this is another trick. I'm loyal. Like, he had truly broken and made this subservient enemy.
Let's be clear on this. Ramsay kept letting Theon go because he enjoyed the hunt of Theon, not because he wanted to mentally break him. That was just kind of a byproduct. Like, come on, that's a bonus. He just enjoyed the hunt, right? Because every time he thought he could finally get out after mentally being jacked with for months at a time, you're going to give it the best effort you got to get away, and nothing is better than the hunt of another man.
Yeah. Which is some evil stuff. And, in all honesty, in the end, his downfall didn't really come from anything of his own doing. He didn't overextend himself. He didn't do anything else. Like, the Starks got super lucky with House Aaron coming in and stuff like that. Otherwise, he would have just crushed the Stark army, been done, and still been the true leader and maniacal, evil person leading the North. So, again, very good bad guy to excel at what he was doing, following all of his own stuff, but was just overpowered in the end by just, the forces of good, if you will.
Wonderful storytelling. We love it. All right. Last one we have in the alignments is going to be our neutral evil. So we'll roll on this one since it's in the middle.
Okay. Ooh, I got a crit.
I got 7, so I'm going first. All right.
Okay.
I have the great Firelord Ozai from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Great choice.
All right. So, there's a little bit more to Firelord Ozai's backstory that a lot of people don't know that happened in the comic books. So, Avatar: The Last Airbender, great, phenomenal TV show, also did a bunch of comic books and told some more of the backstories. Let's talk about it. So, Firelord Ozai was the leader of the Fire Nation in that show. Ultimate bad guy for Aang, our antagonist. Well, Firelord Ozai was the great-grandson of Firelord Sozin, who killed Avatar Roku to basically start the whole Fire Nation taking over the world, right? You go through one generation. He has Azulon. Azulon's just this horrific, mean leader. And then he has a son, Ozai. And Ozai and Iroh. Iroh, who we talked earlier, is our neutral good. The complete polar opposite is his brother, Ozai, neutral evil. So, long story short is Azulon is in charge and Ozai is the younger brother to Iroh. Iroh's supposed to be the leader of the Fire Nation. He is out trying to take over Ba Sing Se. And Firelord Ozai, which was a 600-day war. So 2 years they're trying to take down this thing. And Iroh, his older brother, is gone. Firelord Ozai comes into the room only caring about himself, goes up to his father and says, "Hey, just so you know, dude, my brother sucks because he's been trying to do this for 2 years. You should put me in charge or the whole Fire Nation's going to crumble under his thing." Azulon loses his shit and is like, "Are you serious? Like, one, this is the greatest stronghold ever. And the fact that we're about to crack it is world class and you need to shut up. You're an idiot. I don't know what you're on." He ultimately then goes to kill. His father says the only way that you're going to become in charge is if you kill your firstborn son, which is Zuko, who we all know he already doesn't care about. And this is when you're going to learn that he doesn't care about him. So he was about to kill his son. His wife stops him and says, "Look, I'm not going to let you kill our kid. Like, this is ridiculous, dude." And makes a poison for him that is untraceable by any circumstance. It's odorless, it's colorless, and goes, "Here, use this, go kill your father, do not touch our children." He goes, kills his father in the middle of the night, and then the sages go, "Oh, Firelord Ozai, or Firelord Azulon's last wish when he died was for Ozai to become in charge." That's what they said. And so Firelord Ozai then ultimately takes charge, takes over all the different worlds, X, Y, and Z. But even further into this, which is revealed in the show, just to gain more power, he married the great-granddaughter of Avatar Roku to make sure they have an Avatar bloodline in their family. Not for any reason other than just making sure that they had Avatar bloodline. And then we obviously learn that he burns his son in Agni Kai, tries to take over everything that exists, so on and so forth about Firelord Ozai. But yeah.
Well, it was also because Iroh, when he was fighting in Ba Sing Se, his son died, and so he lost face and stepped down from the throne, putting Ozai in charge. So that did happen. Like, yeah. So Iroh was
that
still
happened.
alive.
So that did happen. It broke him. He didn't step down from the throne. Firelord Ozai banned him. He was like, "Look, you took too long, bud. Get the hell out of here." He had nothing to do with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
But
yeah.
the dying of Iroh's son is when Iroh ultimately, that was his kind of moment as a character to step back and remove himself from the world, for lack of a better term, and kind of learn these worldly values on how to actually treat people. Because he's like, "Look, I've been trying to kill all these people for no reason. My son's dead. My brothers pushed me away from everything. Like, what are we even doing?" And that's when
he got that moment of realization.
Exactly.
Yeah. And yeah, so Ozai doing all that stuff, and then when he went back out, so the show based on the comet, he goes, "Okay, here's where my grandfather took over the world. I'm going to go back and decimate the world more to further my own power, so the Fire Nation is truly the only and all true power on this planet, and hence roll out everything."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Evil.
So
sacrifice of his own son, all those kind of things.
Only cared about himself and how to do it better. And he didn't, and the part that makes him true neutral evil is he would use whatever means he needed. So if he would say, "Oh no, the monarch's supposed to be in charge," that's how Ozai moves up, and that's him using the lawful side of things. And the chaotic side would be, "You know what? I'm going to just ban my own son because he's talking out of order. All right?
Right.
And so just makes up this some shit and then goes, here, you enjoy the world. So he's able to really bend whatever rule he wants to make work ultimately for him. And it can be either chaos or law. It doesn't matter.
The law.
As long as Ozai
the law
wins,
says you
that's all
should
that
be
matters.
banished. You're out. I'm making the laws so that these are the things. Now, his downfall, again, the end game of him being like, okay, if we burn and take over everything again, we can now implement the Fire Nation everywhere. Okay, cool. But is burning the whole world gonna work? Like, and that's where it's sort of like my brain goes, okay, so you do this, you would have to literally decimate everything and then rebuild from the ashes. But again, if everything's now Fire Nation, I guess you did it.
Yeah.
And then evil just being overcome
Firelord
by
Ozai is the ultimate superior Dragon Lord Ozai. Right?
Correct.
Like, how do you get more than ascending to the godhood that is you?
Right.
Right? So
Hubris takes down most bad guys, which that can be the tough one. There's very few movies, books, anything where the bad guys kind of truly win, which again is an interesting aspect of what I consider to be a good evil person, a good villain.
okay. And then who's your neutral evil?
So, my neutral evil would be a gentleman named Bertrand Zorborist from the book Inferno by Dan Brown.
Okay.
So,
never read it. Give it to me.
Everybody's familiar with Dan Brown. You got the Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons, and then they made the Inferno movie. So, Zorborist is a transhumanist follower which believes in the philosophical and intellectual movement advocating the human condition. So making humans the best they can be. Okay. Little bit of the Thanos aspect where he goes, listen, like and if anybody's read the books or seen the movie, it's sort of like the humanity is headed to a breaking point where this planet can't sustain us enough. Everything's going to go to hell. But if we were to cut this back and limit people, then everyone would have more of an abundance of resources. So pretty much page out of Thanos' book.
Okay, so get rid of people, greater good wins.
Correct.
Okay. I can
So
get behind
what
that.
he does,
I'm good with that.
it's not a bad thing. So he releases what's called a vector virus. This is a real thing. So vector viruses are used in tons of different medical aspects where they inject like virus things with whatever attributes they want, and then that can be put into a biological system.
All right.
So
now,
his
hold on. Would that affect him at all? Back to our making great plot lines of villains?
Yes, it would.
Ooh,
So
go into this.
So the story starts with he creates this virus, gets his hands on it, and he right at the beginning kills himself. He's out. So it's like, hey, what did you do? How do we stop this? He goes, I don't know, deal with it, and jumps off a building. And then the book and movie follow Robert Landon trying to track this down because what Zorborist had done is taken this, it was basically a big bag, capsule type thing, and given it to a secret society and been like, here, deal with this. Here's the secrets of following Dante's Inferno, that humanity's going to hell. You're going to hide it in these different things and then release it in like a week. So Landon's following it all around, following all the clues of, Pictology and all the different things to solve what he did with this. And he's chasing where the secret society's bringing it all around. But basically what the virus does is once it's released, the timer's for like a week. And once it's released, 1/3 of the human population, at random, just by genetics, is going to be sterilized. And that will be hereditary. It's in your genomes now. You will be you will bear children. Nope. If you're infertile, you can't bear children. Some people that are fertile could have a child, but that child could be infertile. Like, that's the thing is he goes, I am throwing 1/3 of humanity into infertility. Now, one of the reasons I really liked this guy and thought that he was a perfect villain, I think he's my number one, is because he released this thing, and at the end, this is where this is where Hollywood messes up. This is one of the few times where the bad guy wins. So in the movie, Tom Hanks grabs the capsule out with seconds left. They seal it. It's done. In the book, they get there, grab it, and the bag's already been broken. And then there's like a death note from the guy that says it wasn't a 1 week timer for it being released. It was a 1 week timer for it to have infected the entire planet. So it's already done. And
so similar to your Ozymandias play.
That's what I was like. I got like a reoccurring theme here where like the bad guy won. That's a good villain. You gotta have it. If the villain doesn't win, are they a good villain? Like, no. So to me, this is what made him the best villain, where he saw what needed to be done, did it, and it was unstoppable. There was no button. There was no thing. It kind of hints at the end that it's like, okay, we're going to track this down, try and reverse engineer it to stop it. But again, you still have 1/3 of the population that's infertile. And you have to fix that, but that'll at least dip the population enough to give the rest of humanity more of a chance.
Here's what I think makes him like an even better villain to me and pisses me off, which makes me real happy that they did this.
Yeah, right.
Is that he axed himself before it even took over. He didn't have to deal with the outcome in any way, shape, or form. He was like, did it, see ya, bang.
Well, because he's also like, well, if I'm alive, then this could possibly be stopped. Yeah, and he goes, no, I know what needs to be done, and I'm doing it because that's what needs to be done, and no one can stop it now. So that to me made him the perfect villain. And that's why I think he's better than Thanos, because I was like, because when you think of it, Thanos, yeah, he eliminates half the population. And one of the things that pissed me off in Endgame was that it shows like destitute cities and blah, blah. I'm like, dude, if half the population was suddenly gone, there would be thriving things. There, like, society would immediately start picking itself back up, but it would eventually get back up to an overpopulation thing. With what Zorborist did, it's 1/3 until further notice. Like, it's going to keep that population from getting back up. Like, Thanos only took out half the population until further notice, like, until it fixed itself. Like, it'll get back there. But, like, same thing happened with the bubonic plague. Like, was it half of Europe, if not more, 2/3 of Europe died? Mm-hmm. But look at us now. But imagine if those people couldn't be reproducing as fast. We still would be who knows where.
Dude. Oh, that's heavy. Man, these were some great choices. I was really happy with that. All right. Now let's kind of get into what makes a not great character. Talking about Thanos, since he was driving such a giant franchise, but didn't seem to make either of our lists. What about Thanos made a bad villain to you?
So that exactly what I just said is that he did everything right, but again, like all he did was it's not exactly a band-aid, but if he wiped out half of the universe, that's huge. But again, all he did was just cause a bunch of turmoil until a later point. So his end game, pun intended, was that it could still be, it could still go back to what it was, but it would take, maybe hundreds and hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. So the universe should have been in plenty and happier and stuff like that, which was made me mad about the movies. Because like I said, if half the population suddenly exited, I'd be like, dude, we can go to any ski mountain. We can go take planes to anywhere and do all the activities because there's half people gone. Yeah. But again, eventually, not even in my lifetime, but many
Disney
generations later. Sorry?
Could you imagine Disney World after that? Just like...
Right.
Bro.
Like the longest line's 40 minutes.
15 minutes for Splash Mountain. 15 minutes.
Yeah.
For non-racist Splash Mountain.
Yeah. Yeah. Now it's Tiana's ride.
Yeah. So I think one of the big things that made Thanos a bad villain to me is he was almost too grand for life. Like, oh, I'm dead because I let you kill me. You couldn't actually stop me. Right? Like, he was almost such a powerful bad guy he couldn't beaten. And he didn't have a good Achilles heel. right? Like, one of the great things that we love about every villain is that they have some sort of Achilles heel. The Joker, for example, has no powers, nothing. He's just a madman. That's it. And that's why we love him. He has nothing that makes him special. He's just mentally as insane as they come. And that's why we love the Joker. And then same thing with Ramsay Bolton. Like, his downfall was obviously him just being raised in absolute torture and being vulnerable to all these things. Because he was a relatively weak guy at the end of the day. There was a lot of it to it, but he became too great for himself. That's why I didn't like Thanos, you know? Like, the
when he
baddie
beats
doesn't sell
everyone,
me.
it's like, yeah, that's where the escalation of certain superheroes is like, okay, so you have Thanos that beats the crap out of the Hulk, can basically overpower Ms. Marvel, like, or Captain Marvel, like, all these things, like, cool, like you said, where's the Achilles heel? Where's the actual chance that isn't, well, they only killed him because he was, like, a third of what he was, no powers, no arm, nothing, and lets them kill him. You're like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
you need good villains need that thing.
Yeah, and so they need a good downfall story, or they need a good reason why they won. Like, they just outsmarted the group. Like, think of The Departed, one of the greatest endings of all time.
Yeah.
And the reason we love it is because the villain outsmarted everybody. All right?
Right.
And you're like,
you win. Yeah.
Like,
there wasn't a power aspect. There wasn't a, Deus Machina kind of thing. There was no divine power that came in and solved it. It's like, oh, this guy just won because we all lost. That makes a good villain. Which leads right into, I'm sure a lot of people were surprised that I didn't pick anyone from Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, but to me, those weren't good bad guys. I know. Voldemort is a terrible bad guy.
He's a horrible
He
villain.
is a true villain. He isn't evil, but he is a terrible bad guy. Like, his pursuit of power, okay, totally justifiable. You want to be the best of the best, cool. But like I said, no loyalty. Think of Lucius Malfoy in the first handful of movies. Powerful, cocky. You loved hating him. Then in the last movies, he's like decrepit, beard grown out. Voldemort takes his freaking wand. You're like, what? What kind of leadership is this? I can't get behind this.
And the other thing is, like, Voldemort, like, there was no greater thing that he was trying to serve other than the asshole wizards that he had with him. Like, it was only his lackeys that he was trying to help. It wasn't like he was saying, coming in going, look, I'm going to wipe away all muggles. And guess how wizards are going to thrive? In a completely new world that we put together, that we don't have to hide in. And we can be us. And like, there's nothing really to it other than, hey, we're going to take over.
Right. And like, you look at, okay, Voldemort's in power. Diagon Alley's shut down. Hogsmeade's shut down. Everybody's hiding in the shadows. Like, if you're a Death Eater, you're following him, and you're like, hey, I need to get some groceries. They're like, oh, he blew up the grocery store. You're like, why are we following this dude? Like, he's going after Dumbledore, who's like his last threat. No, Dumbledore's gone. He's going after Hogwarts for some reason.
The only reason we're following him is so that we don't get hit with spells too, bud. Like, we just don't want to be a part of the...
But you could. That's the other thing, is he kills all of his own henchmen. And you're like, what? Like, yo, go tell him that we can't, like, that Harry Potter's doing stuff. Like, nah, because if it pisses him off, he's going to kill me. Like, screw this. Yeah, so terrible bad guy.
Yeah,
another,
not great storytelling.
Yeah, LinkedIn is Lord of the Rings style, okay? You get Sauron takes over, but is it all just fiery industrial? Like, once you take over everything, do you still need to be making swords? Like, what are these orcs going to do? Like, that, again, where's your end game? What are you striving for here?
It's the story of the ultimate evil versus the ultimate good, which is a great story, and that's why the story of Lord of the Rings was great in the aspect of how the tale came to come of the ultimate good, the battle of the ultimate good and the ultimate evil.
Right.
But the ultimate evil sucked in this one. He just happened to be really powerful. He didn't.
Which I think is said about a lot of bad guys, where it's like, okay, cool, you strive for this to an extent, but what's next? When you conquered everything, what do you want now?
Dude,
like, go conquer more. Like, dude, everything's conquered. You're gonna start conquering yourself just because you can. Like, what do you want here? So that to me is what just eliminated those guys off the gates right away.
Dude, and this is, well, we'll toss in some honorable mentions and some things that made good characters as well that we kind of left out. Is I wanted to really reference. I encourage everybody to go watch anime if you haven't, because it is some of the greatest storytelling on the planet. And one of my favorite villains is this guy named Char Osnabald. And basically his whole thing is he is a villain to fight against the government who is trying to take over a little bit more in power, basically. But your view of him is the true neutral, because he truly just cares about making sure that the people get to thrive, right? So you can't hate that, right? But everything he's doing to the government and terrorizes people is horrific. Almost in the Guy Fawkes aspect of, you're like, okay, bud, you're blowing up Parliament. I get why, but does it need to happen this way?
Right. Is there other avenues we could do to do this? Like that again, huge, that could make a better villain or not.
And we can all look around the room and say, is he doing it for the greater good of everyone? Will we try to stop him? But if he gets caught, but there could have been a better way of doing that. Let's that's what I like in a villain.
So my honorable mention was Hannibal Lecter. To me, again, right up there. I couldn't tell if I wanted Joker or not, but Hannibal Lecter's another very good villain, where he could even dabble in the neutral aspect, because he didn't kill lots of people. He kind of only killed when he wanted to. He played that spectrum very well. Hyper intelligent, not truly caught, depending on which way you want to look at all the books and movies and shows. So he was my true honorable mention because of that same thing, where he didn't make the bad list because he did everything to me right, where he's just like, hey, I'm just going to go be evil and do my own stuff. And so that's why he was right up there with it, of should have been on the list, but kind of debatable. More fun to kind of talk about the Joker.
Oh, totally. Who else do you think has an honorable mention? I could go into anime characters for forever.
Well, this is where I will throw back to Harry Potter. Is Dolores Umbridge is a beautiful,
great villain.
And to me, she could have made the list as well, but her falling under my category of the Zealot, where she believed so strongly in the system. And of course, we're viewing it from the side of things should be right. Her entire ideology, her rhetoric is based on, no, things are fine. This is the ministry. We are in control. Like, lawful. This is the way things are. Like, don't we need to learn defensive spells? No, you don't need those in this society. You just need to learn about the laws that are in place. Well, what if we need to fight them? You don't need to. You know, not a fan of the Second Amendment, Mr.
Don't
Lord.
worry about it.
Yeah. You don't need guns because no one's gonna have guns. So you don't need.
It's the ultimate gaslighting government that you love.
Yeah. So she was my honorable mention because she was the perfect bad guy. That character played it so amazingly. She was so easy to hate, and it's that perfect thing where this is the ball of evil wrapped up in a pink bow with kittens, and it's literally wrapped up in a pink bow with kittens.
She's such a all of evil, but you also understand her intentions, right? Like, you get the why behind it. And now here we're going to get into everyone's favorite space opera, Star Wars. Your villains suck in Star Wars, all right? They're all horrific. There's not a lot of great complex storytelling other than the fact of the lineage. That was great. I will sit there and tell you that that is great. The lineage of how the Skywalker family just kind of rose to power is phenomenal.
Okay.
But what I will say is there's no like moral gray area. There's no why. There's just we're bad, you're good. Let's fight each other. That's
Right.
really it. Like there's no
Right.
okay, I'm corrupted with anger. You know, like
Right.
come on,
Well, and
bud.
They lost me with the original trilogy. Who knows how long it took him to build the Death Star? And it's like, that's insane. Something that blows up planets. This is truly monstrous. We need to fight.
Bad
And then
people. We
Force
agree.
Awakens
Head
comes
nods?
out, and they're like, we're not just blowing up planets. We're taking out solar systems. And you're like, why? Why? Like, where's
And
this
then you
motivation of...
You learn that Luke Skywalker, Anakin Skywalker becomes bad just because he has this bad monster inside of him. Like,
Right.
there's really, it's just because he let the bad monster take over, as opposed to like having a true drive, was raised on a poverty,
I'll get behind
forsaken
Anakin.
island. You know, like
I'll get behind Anakin because he was corrupted again by his own hubris, but he was corrupted by the system and then used as a tool by the Emperor, blah, blah, blah. After that, you completely lost any drive and motivation of like they were fighting it because they could change it. They stopped the Death Star, galaxies at peace, and then out of nowhere, it's like, no, now we're blowing up solar systems, and it's like, well, okay, good for you. Like, there's not that drive of taking over the galaxy. Now you're going back to desolate. We're destroying everything so that now are in charge. Like, who are you in charge of if you've blown up everything? Yeah,
again,
not
saying there's anything wrong with Star Wars. The show was great. The storylines were awesome. The villains sucked. The villains were not great built out. Still cool, right? Like you could still have great bad guys that aren't great built out, but yeah. That's my gripe with Star Wars villains. I think they could have done more evil, and I would have enjoyed them drastically more. Or give me a why to their evil, right? Like Darth Maul had a good why. He had a good why.
Right.
Sidious was just evil. Like he was just a bad guy.
Right. You're like you said, where's the motivation? So you want to take over the planet and we're going to fight back against you. Amazing. You're going to blow up the planet. We have to fight back against you. Like, cool, you won. What now? That to me is the most important thing of a villain. Like, where are you going? Why are you doing this?
Give me a why.
And
Give me a good why.
Give me the why. Like, best quote in Lord of the Rings, Saruman's like, we need more weapons. We need more Uruk-hai. And his henchman's like, we don't have the resources. This is not real. Like, look at the paper. We don't have the statistics here. And he's like, go burn down the forest. He's like, oh, okay, we can do that. Cool. Like, you need someone sitting next to the Palpatine being like, psst, why? What are we going to, okay, what's the end? Where are we going? Okay, now I can get behind this.
Star Wars. World-renowned how. Not a great why.
Yes. Other honorable mention is the assassin from Firefly / Serenity.
Ooh,
So this is another space opera one. So if you haven't seen Firefly, absolutely amazing show. Space pirates set out in, there's smugglers in the galaxies going around. Great crew. Nathan Fillion just crushing it. Very lovable. Super comedic. Then they made the movie called Serenity, which kind of follows it. And you have the evil galactic empire. So it's the inner planets. Society's thriving, medical. Everybody's living their good lives. But you learn that there's the nefarious things going on. These nefarious pirate space people find out one thing that they've done, which is super messed up, which is they're experimenting with crowd control, and they try and put in the atmosphere a chemical to make populations calmer. It backfires and creates hyper-violent race. So they find out that the government had created these evil things. So they have this secret that's like, yo, the government's doing good, but they also did some really messed up stuff. So they send this character called the Assassin after the pirate smugglers to kill them so that it doesn't break out. And the Assassin is a perfect villain because he's a great lawful evil because he is following the rules of society. And he's just like they say, this guy's bad, go kill him. They're breaking the laws. And he goes. And he has beautiful monologues where he talks about the society he's trying to enforce and keep current, he cannot be a part of. He's only an outlying executioner maintaining the status quo. The pirates and good guys fall outside of that, so his job is to stop them. And they're like, don't you know what this message is? He goes, it's not my job to know. It's my job to stop you from hurting the greater good.
Neutral evil. Love it.
Neutral evil. And no, I'd go lawful.
Lawful evil?
Because he's following all the rules.
The thing about the Assassin was he was just the job. Whatever the job was. Which I think makes him almost more neutral. Because he didn't care, right? Like, there was the board.
That's true.
And you grab what's on the board, go get it done, get your bounty.
Right. Well, yeah, so, and he didn't have money, he wasn't motivated or anything, he was just hey, here's your orders, go. And he would just go out and kill. And his motivations were just what had to do with it.
Any other honorable mentions you have?
No, I think they kind of bounce around back to just bits and pieces of other villains. I mean, you could go on for days, but they're all derivatives of it. But I think, what do you want to leave the people with?
Thank you for listening, everybody. Hopefully we gave you a good idea of what makes a good villain in our storylines and our ideas. And I'm sure we definitely left some people off the list and forgot about them. But if you also want to leave a comment down and let us know who we missed or who everybody should go and see, go ahead and reach out. But until next time, we'll see you guys around.
Ows.